some obviously sad news. We had the passing of Lance Reddick, and that obviously is quite a, many would say is the most significant, most memorable, most recognizable characters in Destiny. What do you think that means for the future of the Zavala character? Do you think, like, obviously it's speculation, but do you think they have the voice lines recorded already for Final Shape? Do you think they'll have to just axe off the character early? Do you think they'll have someone else do the voice lines, which I would personally doubt, but what do you think this means, like, for the game? Do you think the Zavala character will continue? Because, again, he's one of the most significant characters in the game, so it's definitely a tricky one.
That's a good question. I know that there is meant to be more content in the future where Lance Reddick, before he passed, did manage to get recordings of stuff done. And, you know, like, that's part of why this, I think, takes us all by surprise, is just it was so sudden. And, you know, I think that if ever there is something for Season of the Deep or seasons going forward, we'll see that. I don't know about Final Shape. It's entirely possible. But as far as Zavala as a character, I feel like there is definitely going to be a moment at which they nobly step into the sunset, so to speak. And when that does happen, I don't know if it will be right to immediately replace them. I certainly don't expect Bungie to replace the voice actor. You know, this is not a Nathan Fillion as Cade in Forsaken kind of situation. This is very different. I feel as though also Destiny's attachment to Lance's performance, the community's attachment rather, is a really important thing to respect. You know, there were some people talking about recreating Lance Reddick and his voice with AI. There were some people talking about getting a stand-in, and I just don't think any of these are good suggestions for a multitude of different reasons, but most importantly because we all know that it's not going to be him. You know, it's
and the difference is that with other characters, like even with like Gina Torres, Akora, a lot of these characters have been replaced due to just like scheduling issues, or maybe the difficulty negotiating prices. And a lot of Destiny's voice actors are very famous actors that probably can command high fees, and maybe there was trouble in trying to just get these people locked down to do these voice lines for a game that maybe they had other priorities. But obviously in this case with someone passing, it's very different. So I don't think you would, again, whether you can replace him is a whole nother conversation, because that's almost impossible. There is nobody that's Zavala. He, like, Lance has one of the most unique voices, and Zavala's voice is so just unique and recognizable. It's impossible for anyone else to. It would just be horrendous for someone else to be doing an impression of him, and it just wouldn't make any sense. But
you know what's crazy? Alongside our Guardian voices, which, you know, some of them were cut and some of them were compounded into whichever gender you'd chosen, but alongside our Guardian voices, I'm just sitting here and realizing he's the longest running voice actor that Destiny's had. Even Nolan North as the Ghost hasn't been doing it for as long, because, you know, replaced Peter Dinklage and came in during the time of the Taken King. And just, you know, when you sit there and you think about the impact that someone has had, they've been with us on this journey for a decade. That's kind of incredible. Like, you really can't think of any other character that has that kind of that prominence within Destiny's
staple
communities, like public consciousness.
But as well as that, not only are you right about him being a staple, just voice actor wise for the game, and Zavala being a staple character, Lance also was a huge fan of Destiny and actually played the game. Some people were saying that he was playing, they looked on his account and said that he was even playing Destiny like 2 nights before, and he was regularly. You'd see him at events, you'd see him just like tweeting about, I'm playing the game. Like, he actually, which isn't expected. Most voice actors, you know, they even a lot of Bungie employees don't even play the game. They just do their job. They might do lighting, they might do mocap. Like, not everyone who makes and works on the game actually plays or enjoys the game, or maybe even gaming at all. Some people, it's just a job. You show up, you do your lines, you go home. I don't even know anything about Destiny or what this stuff is. I just do my job. But Lance actually was a huge Destiny fan, and that's why the community has a special relationship with him, because he was actually a member of the community. And again, there's nothing wrong with not playing the game that you work on, but he very much so did, and he was actually a huge fan of the game. So that was what made it extra special.
I think that, you know, for everybody in the community, it was very easy for us to all see and to expect and to understand the outpouring of both love and sorrow that came in that moment of his passing. I think it's a real testament to the impact that he's had on the community and how loved as a character he really was, both as Zavala and IRL. You know, that alongside everything to do with gaming stuff, I know that anyone who you asked about Lance Reddick from all of the other spheres where he was doing things, I mean, even down to Keanu Reeves, you know, this is the guy who sat there and his other half sat there and asked him, hey, what do you want to do for your birthday? And he said, I want to go see Lance. It's just, we lost a really fantastic human being here alongside everything else. And, you know, don't get me wrong when I say that the outpourings of love were kind of expected. It's not as though it was people calling it in at all. It was actually just, you know, people felt duty to it.
It was a lot of shock and surprise.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, people sat there and held vigil. And, you know, I think the only other time I've seen people do that in a video game sphere was the Warframe community around a YouTuber called Total Biscuit, who kind of, you know, the context there is that he and his review essentially helped to launch the game and Digital Extremes into a place where they could continue to develop things. You know, as the developers put it in the time being, there was Warframe before and after the Total Biscuit video. And, you know, Lance has had a similar impact, if not much, much greater over a decade. It's the only other time where I've sat there and seen people holding vigils and, you know, putting their characters next to Zavala and doing something momentarily to honor someone within a video game. It's really special.
Yeah.
You know?
Life is short, it's precious, and it is definitely not guaranteed. And this is just another reminder of that. And I think even more so, it says a lot how people talk about you once you're gone, and it's very evident with Lance, the kind of outpouring that kind of says a lot, a celebration of the life rather than dwelling too much on the temporariness of life. But how people talk about you and how people remember you definitely says a lot, and that's, you know, you can see it very clearly with Lance, and just the passion of how he did his job and how he just always was consistent. And yeah, it's definitely a huge shock to everyone. Don't think anyone really knew quite how to handle that.
I think that there's definitely something to it as well. There's the joy that he brought. You know, I it's the one thing that I've resoundingly seen from people who talk about knowing Lance Reddick personally, was that he was just incredibly funny. You know, like he was somebody that was in the place where he was able to be humorous, and, you know, he would care and would put, you know, significant words on significant things, but, you know, this was a guy who remembered every day to laugh.
Yeah, very jovial, very you can just see it by his social media. You could see he just seemed to be a very lighthearted, just kind of fun person. But yeah, you never know what people are going through, what people are suffering with behind the scenes. Things can seem all good on the surface, but that's why you should always be grateful and, you know, make the most of life while we have it. But yeah, that was definitely a huge shock. But what happens with the game, we shall see. But yeah, definitely one of the most. It's crazy. I was literally editing a video and I was looking for a cutscene that had Zavala in it. And I had it open in one screen, and I was like he had his voice playing in the background, and I was just literally thinking at that point of like how iconic Zavala, just the character and the voice was. I was thinking he is like the most legendary voice in Destiny. He's definitely the most recognizable. And then I remember like a recommended video popped up that was like RIP, and I was like, what is this, like clickbait? Is this like what? And I clicked on it. I was just like, how, like right at the second that I was just watching a video to grab a cutscene to include in my video, right at the second this news breaks, and I was like, how is this even? The timing of it was just yeah, very strange.
I was on, you know, I saw at first it was a TMZ article that broke for me, and I was ready to call foul and be mad at people and be like, how dare you? What the hell's going on? And then other articles started coming out and other places started reporting the same. I was like, oh my God, this isn't a sick, twisted joke. Oh my God, this is happening. Like I was in total disbelief.
But yeah, rest in peace to Lance, legendary character, legendary artist, creator, voice actor. But we shall see how Destiny progresses.